George injury report came out last night. How's everybody progressing toward playing tonight?
Let's see. I know we've got a number of guys. I know for sure BC, Vince are going to be out. The other guys are game time decisions. Back soreness, some shoulder soreness. These guys are going to test it out, and we'll know here pretty quickly, hopefully.
Other questions?
What are you looking for in this game, after playing last night, I guess improving from day after day?
I think you just gave the answer. Improve day after day. Obviously, coming off a tough loss, the situational experiences we're getting the last couple of games are hopefully going to make us better. Obviously, when I look specifically at the Spurs, obviously we've gotten a couple victories already this season. Obviously, with Wembanyama out of the game tonight, that's going to be a different story offensively and defensively. But first and foremost, I hope he's okay. I know it sounds like the prognosis is everything's going to be positive. He'll be good to go. I know that's a difficult situation the Spurs are navigating, but they're playing a lot faster. Obviously, getting Fox integrated. Johnson's playing extremely well. We know what Vassell's capable of with off-ball screens, dribble handoffs, and you still got Chris Paul out there, who can be a stabilizing force and one of the best point guards of all time. And a lot more pick and rolls that we have to be prepared for. So, what we've been talking about defensively for us is how committed we're going to be being disciplined with our transition defense, but also still excelling in our offensive rebounding. Last night against the Knicks, we have a couple overruns or we don't tag up and it burns us on the other end. So can't have those possessions, especially against the dynamic play that they're playing with right now. With I think they're second in kick ahead rates right now. Then you throw Fox in there and he's one of the best open court players in the game. And then our pick and roll defense, we've been adjusting more, coming out of the break, doing some different things, whether it's in our high centers or our switches or, double team coverages, because we got to keep teams off balance. We'll see what the game presents. Our coverage execution's got to be great. I thought for the most part, we were actually pretty good against the Knicks, once we got them in the half court. Against the Spurs, we're going to have to be ready to do that throughout 48 minutes as well.
Coach Zach Edey is among the league leaders, like 45% of his rebounds are on the offensive end. What is he doing so well as an offensive rebounder?
Well, everything that he's already gifted doing. We've tried to kind of nuance some of his development, as I've always talked about speed and physicality of the game, some of the technique that we're trying to emphasize with our rebounding habits. I think he's adopting those well, but he's already had that strength in his game. So I think it's just leaning into what he's been really successful with, playing on the high side, find those abilities to still tap out, wedge guys underneath. Just, you talk to some of the best offensive rebounding bigs in the game. They know the strategy way better than coaches do in terms of teaching that. And I feel like he's making progress on the defensive side as well, so when teams are really sending a lot of bodies in there, it puts a lot of pressure on all five of us, and I think he's figuring out how to put his body in the right positions defensively to swallow up. But again, when you got a lot of athletic guys coming around, it's just a different level than it was in college, and I think he's making progress there, but it's great that he's still having that substantial impact on the offensive glass.
Hey, Coach, as you approach the last 20 games in the season, where do you go from a day-to-day perspective to analyzing the next 20 to prepare for the next season? When did you make that switch?
Yeah, I think we've been kind of making that switch a little bit, but we still got to live day to day. We can't be thinking about what's 82nd game of the season going to mean for us. We don't want to be a standings watching team and all that. Like, we are thinking big picture about, if we are fortunate enough to progress beyond 82, what does that look like? What do we have to be prepared for? And it's our foundational, identity, 3 Ps on offense and defense, the execution on both sides of the floor there, being locked in on that. And then as the games present themselves, in the back of our mind, there's opportunities to go, hey, this is an opportunity for us to prepare for the big picture as well. Situational stuff, that stuff's definitely going to be ramping up as these games get tighter. This is the best basketball of the NBA season right now before you get to the playoffs. So identifying those situations and addressing those day in, day out. So just continuing to layer one after another, but still making sure our foundational game plans, offensively and defensively, are there every single day.
Back to Edey kind of a little bit. You've been starting Wells and Edey most of the season. And the starting lineup has gotten really good results. The numbers are good on the starting lineup, obviously. But it's pretty rare for a team to have 2 rookie starters in the playoffs at the same time. So when you're analyzing that, and especially since we're now getting deeper into the season, how do you weigh the results you're seeing versus the track record of teams not really doing that in playoff basketball?
Yeah, we're going to trust in what maybe previous experiences have been, but it's facing us right in the right in the face right now. Like, these guys are playing impactful basketball, so it's definitely on our minds. I've always prepared the entire team that we may be making changes, at certain points, but this group's had some good chemistry, and we've got to be thinking big picture as well. But those guys are showing us enough, whether they start, and I give them credit, they start pretty much every night right now, and they may not finish. Jalen finishes the game the other day. Zach's in at the end of the game the other day. So trying to figure out, still 48 minutes, everyone looks into the starters, but then we look at how guys are successfully coming off the bench and what our bench units do to increase our pace, and different things defensively that we can deploy with different lineups. So it's not always on the starting lineup, but that's definitely a focal point, because when you do get into the playoffs, that's even magnified more, and how deep of a rotation you go into. But to have two rookies that are making an important impact right now, I want to lean into that, but also be mindful of, okay, what are they going to be prepared for when you're playing those highest test, best offenses, best defenses as we get going, and when we have to make changes as necessary, those guys have been fully prepared to handle that.
Tim, over here. You're catching this Spurs team now with a De'Aaron Fox. Obviously, you spoke about not having Wembanyama on the team anymore, but how does Fox really stress your defense and maybe change what you had to focus on?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of what they've been doing really well since the All-Star break. Playing extremely fast, as I mentioned a moment ago, the kick-ahead rate. I mean, him, you just watch the clips when teams are picking him up full court, not being, building their defense and executing their pick-and-roll coverages. He's just going right by these guys. So they're trying to play as fast as they can. I think they're second in the league also in just frequency in transition right now. And then the pick-and-roll ability. The first couple of matchups, there was definitely an emphasis on Victor, and then obviously the sell off the ball, Chris Paul and pick-and-rolls. Well, now you've got Paul, but especially Fox, two great point guards. His speed, ability to get downhill, shoot the three, mid-range, he's got 3-level ability, but also he's got the fast pace, fast break mentality. So those are the big two keys for us, is transition and pick and roll, and he definitely unlocks, that for them.
Does that pace play into what you guys want to do as well?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, when we talk about our 3 Ps, we want that to be a factor for us offensively every single night, but defensively is where we've got to clean it up, and he's exposed that, obviously, when he was with the Kings, our disciplined nature of not overrunning our offensive rebounding patterns and building our wall, but then when they create number of situations, are we getting to our shifts, are we having multiple efforts to get back? But you see so many clips where a team has 5 guys back, but they're picking up too high, no one's in a shift, and he just goes right downhill and lays it in the basket, and gets an and one, so it's going to stress us a lot tonight. We got to be very disciplined in that department. Great, thanks.